Hey, so before we get into this video, I just wanted to ask you to please like the video, comment, or do anything you can to help support this video on this channel. I absolutely lost my sanity while recording this series, so I'd appreciate it very much if you could do anything you can to compensate for it, but with that said, let's get into the video. Hey everybody, and welcome to today's new video, the Inclement Emerald Shinylock. For the uninitiated, Inclement Emerald is a really good ROM hack of the original Pokemon Emerald for the Game Boy Advance. It does things like increases the difficulty curve, makes certain gyms extremely difficult, and overall just improves the pacing of the game. By the end of the game, you'll have a full team of level 100 Pokemon fighting full teams of other level 100 Pokemon. So it's overall got really fun balance, some new in-game mechanics, and it just makes Pokemon Emerald look like a completely different game. And the most notable thing about this ROM hack is it increases the shiny odds from 1 out of 8,000 to roughly 1 out of 1,024. So finding shiny Pokemon is significantly easier, but it is still incredibly difficult to grind for them. If you know what you're doing, there are still ways to optimize the RNG, like using static abilities and magnet pull, but overall it just makes shiny hunting in Pokemon Emerald super fun. So, I wanted to do a full playthrough of it, except I can only use shiny Pokemon. On top of that, I can only take the first wild shiny encounter I find in each given area, unless it's Stunfisk. And on top of that, there are built-in level caps. I will allow myself to use healing items in battle, but no X items. The only reason I added this rule is because I have finals week coming up, so I had to get this playthrough done fast in order to edit it in time, so sorry about that. Anyways, enough of that, let's get into the actual run. So the run began on stream one weekend. I had finally found my USB to Ethernet adapter so I could stream again, so I optimistically wanted to stream this series. And let me tell you, that did not work. For the first stream, I spent over 5 hours using a shiny method that not only didn't work, but also just was very time consuming. And then next stream, I also failed to find a shiny. From that point on, I realized I had to do it all off stream, so that way I could actually know what I was doing beforehand. So I'll spare you all the details and just cut to when I finally find my first shiny Trico. I named it Digital, after the one person in chat who watched me suffer for over 5 hours. So I completely obliterated the rival after failing one time, and then after that, it was pretty smooth sailing. The adaptive leveling of wild Pokemon allowed me to train my Trico all the way up into a Grovyle before I left the first town. As you could imagine, this made farming for the first shiny Pokemon incredibly easy. However, after a few hours of shiny hunting and no luck, I ended up just going over to the first gym and completely destroying it with just Grovyle. Considering it was a grass type with Mega Drain that had already evolved, it was pretty easy, not gonna lie. Just a complete steamroll of Mega Drains and Bullet Seeds and sometimes Dragon Breaths. After that, I decided I wanted to go all the way back to the first route and try my luck at getting my first shiny. So the route right outside of Little Root Town ended up becoming my first shiny hunting ground. In this beginning area, there were a bunch of really good Pokemon that could evolve into stronger ones later on that you can find in this area. The most notable of which being Zorua, which not only was the prettiest looking shiny in this area in my opinion, but it was also one of the strongest towards the endgame, as Zoroark is kinda busted. However, I would have been fine with just about any other shiny. Eventually, I found my shiny Pokemon. It was no Zorua, but I think Zigzagoon was a really great one to start with. For starters, it was the first encounter that you actually had to fight with your starter Pokemon. And while I was grinding for a shiny Trico, I kid you not, I found 2 shiny Zigzagoons in that first encounter, and since you couldn't catch them, it made me very, very sad. So after I caught the shiny Zigzagoon, who I then called Ziggy, it felt like some kind of retribution. almost like I was getting back at the game for giving me all those shinies I couldn't catch before. So now with a new friend at hand, I was ready to progress through the game. Except not quite. I wanted to go back into Petalburg Woods and see if I could try my luck at getting a shiny Venipede. In my first playthrough of Inclement Emerald, I shiny hunted for Venipede for hours and only found other shinies of the area. So I was desperate to get my hands on a shiny Venipede in this run. And as fate would have it, I happened to get shiny Venipede. I guess after all those hours of very poorly attempting to hunt for shinies, I was due for some good luck this run. And lucky for me, the luck didn't end there. I beat up some Team Aqua grunts and then was able to head over to the second gym's island. But before I could get to the second gym's island, I needed to check out a really dope cave over there. This cave happens to have a lot of really cool wild Pokemon, especially in this ROM hack. There was even a Beldum you could catch around here, but it was only in the room that you found Steven in. As you all know, I'm a very big fan of shiny Metagross with that platinum and gold, but fate would have it other ways. Life has this funny way of not giving you what you want, but still making you very happy anyway. In this case, I happened to find a shiny Onyx in my third encounter when I went to the lower level of the cave. And that was kind of crazy. It was not only the first shiny I found by complete accident, because at the time I found it, I was just clearing through the cave to get through the main story, but Onyx also evolves into one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, Steelix. And if you guys remember the randomizer Nuzlocke I had of Pokemon Emerald just a couple months ago, I really liked Steelix. So I invited him to the party and named him 24K, because he looks like he's made out of gold. Unfortunately, he wouldn't have his time to shine for a good long while, because the next gym was a fighting type gym, and rock types don't go well with fighting types. This gym also ended up being one of the biggest struggles of the entire run. You see, in Inclement Emerald, they gave him a Hitmonchan at the second gym, and on top of that, Hitmonchan got one of the most overpowered abilities ever added in a ROM hack. You see, now all his punching moves gain priority, and for whatever ungodly reason, they decided to give him things like Ice Punch and I think Drain Punch. So Hitmonchan ended up being the scariest Pokemon on his entire team. There was no easy way out of this one. I had to strategize and come up with a way to defeat his Hitmonchan, as well as all the other incredibly powerful Pokemon on his team. And as it turns out, I had an answer. You see, after I evolved Ziggy into a Lanoon, he could learn Play Rough. Play Rough is a very strong fairy-type physical attack, which is really powerful against fighting-type Pokemon. On top of that, he always sends out a Meditite on the first turn. The Meditite knows both Reflect and Light Screen, and since the NPC AI always prioritizes some kind of status move beforehand, I was basically guaranteed one free Hone Claws, so that way I can try to sweep his Hitmonchan with my Lanoon. With a bit of luck and trial and error, he ended up using Bulk Up instead of Drain Punch on his Hitmonchan, basically giving me the win. I 2-hit his Hitmonchan with Play Rough, but it didn't get any easier after that. Brawly also happened to have a few other incredibly powerful Pokemon, including a Breloom with Mach Punch and Spore, but also an incredibly tanky Hamaruyama and a very powerful Lucario. This meant I had to scrap by with every free hit, with every stat drop, and every super effective attack I could. Using Grovyle, I was barely able to out-DPS the Breloom and out-heal its damage with Mega Drain. And giving the endurance test Hamaruyama a run for its money, Grovyle eventually went down. This left a bunch of Pokemon, which really had no business being this far in the gym run, left to defeat two of his strongest Pokemon. Venipede got a few bug bites on the Lucario before it inevitably went down, but Buggy got the Lucario just low enough to where the Onix could survive a one-hit KO with Sturdy, and then retaliate with a lethal Rock Slide, winning us the gym badge by 1 HP. This gym battle kind of woke me up. It made me realize that this journey is going to be much more tough than I thought. I'm not always going to be able to scrape by with pure luck. I'm going to have to find strategies to defeat these very, very difficult fights beforehand. So despite all the trials and tribulations, I ended up leaving with my second gym badge and a new outlook on this game. After taking a beating from the second gym, I decided I wanted to go on to progress the story before leveling up my Pokemon to the new level cap. Using the move tutor, I was able to teach Ziggy extreme speed, which becomes very helpful later on. And then I went to the Slateport Museum and destroyed a bunch of Team Aqua grunts. From then on, it was pretty much a straight shot to Mauville and the next gym, if May wasn't in the way. Ask any Pokemon Emerald speedrunner or just Pokemon Emerald enthusiast about the May 3 fight, and they will tell you a very, very long paragraph about why this fight is so difficult. Inclement Emerald knew this and decided to make it even more difficult. May had a powerful Gut Swallow, which had a Flame Orb on it, which gives it an insane attack boost. And on top of that, they have a Combuskin, which happens to be the perfect counter to my entire team. After a lot of thought, I eventually came to the conclusion that the only way I can possibly out-DPS Combuskin is with either a very tanky Pokemon, or just sheer brute force. And since Onix didn't have any good super effective moves against Combuskin, I decided to use Digital and just use a Stab Giga Drain to get tons of damage. It's not super effective, but just because we have such a high special attack stat on Digital and Giga Drain has such an insanely high base damage and regen rate, I think we'll be able to finally out-DPS the Combuskin and other Pokemon in May's party. So after leveling up all our Pokemon to the level cap, I was able to move on to Mauville after destroying May. Now that we have access to Mauville, we actually also have access to the daycare, which means we could breed any shiny we want. I decided that I could only accept the first shiny I happened to hatch at the daycare, so I had to make it count. I ultimately decided that if we evolved my Onix into a Steelix, I wouldn't need another shiny Pokemon for a good long while. So I decided not to breed for a shiny until I actually needed one. We also got access to bikes, which means I could hunt for shinies very quickly. So after snagging my bike and healing my Pokemon, I decided it was time to fight Wally. In the original game, Wally was always a pushover until the very last fight. So in this ROM hack, they actually made him pretty scary. His Kirlia knows both Double Team and Calm Mind, which sets up for an amazing sweeper, but luckily we were able to completely cheese our way through the entire fight relatively quickly. After the Wally fight, I decided to go to Slateport and pick up a Metal Coat and then level up my Onix so that way it could evolve into a Steelix. Cause in this ROM hack, you can get all your favorite Pokemon without needing friends. And on top of that, Digital evolved into a Sceptile. So after those upgrades and training the rest of my Pokemon, the next gym was starting to look less and less like a threat. So I dived into the Watson battle head on. It was by no means easy at all, but it was much easier than I thought it would be. It took me all of about 3 attempts to finally get the run down to a science. He would always lead with his Galvantula, which would always set up a sticky web, so I'll never outspeed unless my Pokemon is extremely fast. Steelix can always survive 1 Mega Drain and a Bug Buzz, and still kill Galvantula, but Lantern and Manectric can easily defeat Steelix. Turns out that Sceptile can kill both of them with Giga Drain pretty quickly while surviving a bunch of hits. Ziggy can take out the Motom with a Slash and an extreme speed. The Magneton was also a very big issue. It sets up electric terrain, and it has a very powerful flash cannon. Luckily, Steelix is immune to Magneton's electric type attacks, and flash cannon happens to be not very effective against him. So after using a bunch of healing items, I could PP stall the Magneton to the point where it's just about as good as dead. Not gonna lie, Buggy couldn't really do much in this gym, so I pretty much just used him as switch fodder. Alolan Raichu happens to have a super effective Psychic against it. So by baiting out the Volt Switch into Alolan Raichu, I am able to safely and effectively defuse Alolan Raichu using Sceptile. leaving me with an answer to every Pokemon on this guy's team. And just like that, we had the 3rd gym badge. With what many people would consider the hardest part of the game over my shoulder, I was able to move on. I began the next chapter of my journey by kidnapping a Munchlax, stealing its leftovers, and then immediately releasing it back into the wild. After that, I took a long journey all the way up north, looking for the next town. I ended up losing to the same exact ace trainer over and over and over again, but I eventually managed to overcome them by teaching Steelix Firefang and actually using the leftovers. So after I got that trainer out of the way, it was pretty much an easy walk straight to Fallarbor town. Once I got to Fallarbor town, May interrupted me outside of the Pokemon Center, saying to meet up with her at Meteor Falls so we can beat up bad guys or something. But before I went to Meteor Falls, I wanted to check out a very important set of NPCs that got added to the game in this ROM hack, them being Eevee and Ivy. If you talk to Eevee at any point in the game, she can change the effort values, or EVs, of your Pokemon, which makes EV training much less of a pain, at the cost of a lot of Pokemoney. And Ivy, can you guess what Ivy changes with your Pokemon? That's right, IVs. Using a lot of bottle caps, which is a currency that you can find throughout the game by progressing the main story or accomplishing a few side quests, you can exchange them for changes in IVs of Pokemon. So you can exchange a lot of these bottle cap items for some really overpowered Pokemon stats, which is going to be very important since we're not going to have access to a lot of Pokemon, so we have to make the ones we have count. Insert Fallout joke here. Anyways, with that out of the way, we went over to Meteor Falls, beat the crap out of some bad guys with May, and now it's suddenly our responsibility to save the island from a volcanic cataclysm. Why did the NPCs of this world trust us, a 10-year-old kid with some overpowered steroid monsters, to save the world? I don't know, but we did it anyway. So after I took care of some of the Team Magma grunts and admins, I decided to train up all my Pokemon to the new level cap of 50 and challenge Maxie's. Maxie's is usually a very scary fight, but our team was somewhat prepared for this. Digital could hit most of his team for neutral damage, meaning they had a big advantage against his entire team. On top of that, his powerful physical, poison, and fire attacks had no effect on Steelix because he was just too strong. So we pretty easily breezed through Maxie's on our first try, but it could have easily gone either way. So now with Maxie's out of the way, we were free to move on to Lava Ridge Town and challenge the 4th gym. For the 4th gym, I was pretty ready for it. Flannery's Torkoal, with a very powerful Solar Beam and Drought combo, gets completely dismantled by Digital. On top of that, Steelix can survive multiple overheats, meaning we can effectively stall out Torkoal until it's borderline useless and then completely destroy it. But yeah, spoiler alert, I ended up defeating the gym after like several tries, like maybe 6 or 7, and then I forgot to save afterwards. So I'm gonna talk about that in a minute, but for now, this is just how I beat it on the first attempt. So I started out by sacking 24k to bait out 2 overheats from Torkoal, so now its special defense was as good as nothing. Taking advantage of this, I was able to toxic it with Buggy, so that way it could eventually go down without any threat whatsoever. After that, I sacked Sceptile in a horrible trade, and I switched to Ziggy. For whatever reason, Flannery always wanted to switch to Arcanine whenever I switched out Ziggy, so I was able to get off a free belly drum, and there onward was just able to extreme speed a lot of the powerful mons out of the way. Arcanine goes down, Houndoom goes down, Blaziken goes down, leaving just the Talonflame. The issue is I ran out of extreme speed PP, meaning I couldn't outspeed this Talonflame using Ziggy, meaning I had to come up with another solution to get this Talonflame out of the way. I eventually realized that 24k was gonna have to be a clutch god once again. So I sacrificed Ziggy to use a revive on 24k, so that way it could survive an overheat and then retaliate with a lethal rock slide, once again defeating the gym battle with 1 HP. So after that, I decided that we needed some new shiny Pokemon on our team. We were going to have to go all the way back to Petalburg City to face Norman, which is very powerful in this ROM hack, with a Mega Evolved Kangaskhan. If we were ever going to stand a chance, we were going to need some really good Pokemon. Luckily for me, I happen to know a lot of the places where we could get some. The Mirage Tower has a lower level, which has some really good Pokemon. You could get a Yamask, a Bronzong, a Golett, a Honedge, a Gabite, a Claydol. All of these are incredibly powerful Pokemon specifically for the Norman fight. Aegislash can infinitely stall all the Truant Slackings using King's Shield and Sacred Sword. And Gabite can evolve into Garchomp, my favorite pseudo-legendary with an incredibly powerful Earthquake. Eventually, after farming in this lower level of Mirage Tower, I found a shiny Bronzong. We already had a really good Steel-type wall in 24k, but I have found some exploits through PokemonShowdown.com that allow me to use Recycle Earthquake Weakness Policy, which makes Bronzong an absolute monster. Unfortunately though, we never get a chance to truly use them, as since I forgot to save before or after the Lava Ridge fight, I ended up actually losing Gong forever, and since I thought it would be cheating to go back and shiny hunt for another Pokemon in Mirage Tower, I guess that means we'll just never see Gong again. So long, Gong. But yeah, I went back and defeated the gym again, remembered to actually save this time, and decided to shiny hunt elsewhere for a new member to the party. I tried shiny hunting for Gabite in the desert for ages, but I never had any luck whatsoever. So instead, I just wanted to explore all the little secrets around the region I hadn't been able to find, but I could now find using my new HM moves. After a couple of hours of grinding with absolutely no luck, I decided to just fight Norman with the team I had at the moment. Even though most of our team members were severely underleveled, we could still find a way to strategically win anyways. Norman also gifted us with the ability to Mega Evolve our Pokemon, and Mega Sceptile is an absolute beast. On top of that, we had Buggy, our Scolipede who happened to have Protect, Baton Pass, Agility, and Toxic, meaning we could essentially cheese all the Slackings using just him. The issue with that strategy is I forgot that Yawn still affects after Shruant. So every time I tried to cheese a Slacking, my Scolipede ended up falling asleep, and since I refused to wake it up for whatever reason using berries, it pretty much went down every time. So sadly, Scolipede's one time to shine didn't shine through. It's okay, Buggy. You tried your hardest, and that's what matters. Buggy did end up playing a very critical role in this gym battle though, giving us a free switch to Ziggy during a Truant phase, meaning we could get a free Belly Drum off. You know the drill by now. Belly Drum, Extreme Speed Sweep. The 4 times boosted Extreme Speed wasn't enough to one-hit KO the Mega Kangaskhan, but Digital was able to finish it up, leaving us with the new gym badge. Now that we've obliterated our paternal figure, we can now use HM Surf to explore the vastest part of this world, the ocean. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I think I'm going to end this video here, because I'm splitting up the Shinylock into 2 videos, and you're watching the first one right now. The second part will release sometime close to after or during the Christmas break, so stay tuned for that. Also, if you're one of the chill people who watched from beginning to end, be sure to comment something down below so I can tell who you are. So if you're listening to this right now, type RIP GONG 2021 through 2021. I'll try my best to heart any of the comments you guys make, and with that said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next part of the Shinylock series. Have a good one.